Welcome to Long Shots, the world's #1 golf betting show on VSiN and VSiN.com, the sports betting network. I'm Brady Kannon, along with Wes Reynolds, Nick Kenyon, and Triv McKenzie are at the controls. Karina Howe and Rob Moreno keep the show afloat from down below as we get ready to take you through golf betting conversation for the next hour. And wow, Mr. Reynolds, what a week. I was glued to the TV for about 4 straight days and enjoyed almost every minute of it, but what a way to kick off the first major of 2020. Harding Park, Collin Morikawa, the young kid, the Cal Bear, gets his first major victory. I thought the entire event was remarkable.
Yeah, more West Coast golf, please, especially more West Coast majors in prime time for the East Coast, early prime time here for the West Coast as it ended about 7 o'clock on Saturday night and 6 o'clock on Sunday night. But well done to Collin Morikawa, shoots a bogey-free final round of 64, 31 on the back nine. Broke out of that pack of 7 leaders. I think you, myself, and Matt had everybody tied for that lead at one point except for Morikawa, and he went ahead and put it away. He shot 129. That's 11 under par if you need it on the weekend to have the lowest ever final 36-hole score in a major championship. And he also, led the field in driving accuracy, led the field proximity to the hole, led the field in strokes gained putting. And where did he rank coming into this week? And what kind of kept me off of him? 164th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. And that's what I always say with majors. You don't have to be a great putter. You just got to putt great for 4 days. And that's what he did. And he was, you see on the graphic there, he was first in strokes gained putting this week. And he was also pretty solid everywhere else. We know his irons are arguably the best on the PGA Tour right now, but it wasn't his irons kept him. It was basically his tee ball being so accurate off the tee. It's what coaches always say, if they're in football or basketball or any other sport, you get in position to be in position.
Yeah.
And that's what Collin Morikawa did. The tee ball game put him in position, and then he went bonkers with the putter.
Some amazing things that Morikawa did on Sunday, and this was after shooting 65 on Saturday. Typically, you don't follow that up with a 64. He saved par from 22 feet on the very first hole. He saved par again from 26 feet on the 6th hole, and then the 2 iconic shots on the back 9. He chips in on 14 from out of the rough for birdie, and then Wes, the 16th hole, drives it perfectly right at the flag to end up maybe 12 feet from the cup and drops it in for eagle.
Yeah, I was texting with some buddies. I was like, if he just makes birdie here, we're okay. Paul Casey was one of my guys, and he had a chance to birdie 18. It's like, we're okay, but once he eagled the hole, it was all over. And just 23 and a half years old. Usually to win a major championship, you got to go through a little pain and maybe come up short once or twice. Even Jordan Spieth at a young age, before he won the Masters the year before, he was tied for second. But Collin Morikawa said, the heck with that. I'm just going to go ahead and win it right now. 27 pro starts on the PGA Tour, and he's already got a major. Only Tiger Woods and Jerry Pate did that faster.
Well, you talk about the young guns winning major championships. This is the 9th PGA champion in the last 11 years to be in their 20s. It's the 18th of the past 21 PGA champions to have a win earlier in that same season. Morikawa, of course, has the win at the Workday Charity Open coming into this one. And now majors combined, 13 out of the last 18 majors, Wes, have been won by a first-timer. We're seeing young kids win, and we're seeing youth win and hoist trophies in their first chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also seeing class players win. He came in, I believe that's now 33 in a row, were a top 50 or better player. He was number 12 in the world coming in here. He's now number 5 in the world. Would actually, if he'd played more events, because he hasn't met the minimum events in terms of the divisors, how they come up with those official world golf rankings, he would be number 1 in the world at this point if he had the minimum events.
Well, Collin Morikawa was absolutely impressive, but I was just as thrilled with the TV coverage in the golf course in San Francisco. I thought from start to finish, and in these challenging times, it was a wonderful event.
Absolutely. I thought it was a challenge, but it wasn't overwhelming. They didn't dummy it up too much to just make it impossible. So I thought it was very successful, and it was certainly entertaining, and we have a very deserved champion in Collin Morikawa.
This is Long Shots, the world's #1 golf betting show. Brady Kannon and Wes Reynolds with you on VSiN and VSiN.com, the sports betting network. Daniel Rappaport of Golf Digest will join us shortly to preview this week's event, the Wyndham Championship. But Wes, I want to continue to look back at the week that was the PGA. The Long Shots crew, you, me, and Matt Humans, like you say, we had this thing surrounded. I had DJ and Scotty Scheffler at 151. I had Xander. You had Jay Day, Rosie, Casey, and Finau. Matt had Brooks Koepka, also had Jason Day and a few other guys, but it was Mr. Morikawa that emerged, and unfortunately, the Long Shots crew, none of us were on the little guy.
Yeah, we had him surrounded, but just didn't get it to the wire. DJ ends up tied for second. Pointed out now, 0 for 4 in converting 50-hole leads in majors. He's now the runner-up in the PGA Championship in back-to-back years. He was, of course, runner-up at Bethpage. Paul Casey, look, I had a bad number on it and thought I was maybe going to cash a ticket. I was like, would I rather cash a ticket on a bad number or have a good number and not win? I'd rather take the former.
Exactly.
And Paul Casey, best major finish of his career. He was trying to become the oldest first-time major championship since Roberto DiVincenzo did it in '67 at the Open. The guy that really you could make an argument. Our colleague here at VSiN had a nice bomb ticket on Matthew Wolff, and that our colleague being Mitch Moss, tied for fourth. He was first in the field, strokes gained tee to green, second in strokes gained off the tee, third in strokes gained approach. But of the 79 players that made the weekend, Brady, 66th in strokes gained putting, and that's a might have been for Matt Wolff. Tony Finau, obviously another near miss. 31 top tens since the 2016-17 season without a win, and then Jason Day, another top 7 finishes tied for fourth. And I got to touch on Koepka, too, before we get to our guest. Was tied for fourth heading into Sunday, and obviously said, he kind of made some comments that he wasn't really threatened. And look, I like confidence, and we need guys. It makes it more entertaining for guys to wear the black hat. But it was kind of nice to see Brooks Koepka eat a little bit of humble pie on Sunday.
This show is brought to you by our friends at Indeed from the Indeed.com studio. Find high impact for hiring in your business needs. Indeed.com/high impact. That's Indeed.com/high impact for more information. We go from breezy, chilly, foggy mid-60s to calm, humid, sticky mid-80s as we transition from San Francisco to Greensboro, North Carolina for the Wyndham Championship, the final tune-up before the FedEx Cup playoffs. And to help us take a look, let's bring in our guest. It is the member guest segment here on Long Shots, and joining us now is Daniel Rappaport, formerly a golf writer with Sports Illustrated, now a staff writer at Golf Digest, and you can follow him on Twitter at Daniel_Rappaport. Daniel, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us here at VSiN. Before we dive into the Wyndham, we'd love to hear about your experience and some of your impressions of the PGA Championship, the golf course Harding Park, and of course the 23-year-old champion, Collin Morikawa.
Yeah, it was a fun week and a pretty awesome Sunday. You know, the world kind of deprived us of major championship Sundays for 13 months, and then I guess they kind of rewarded us with a Sunday for the ages. But no, it was a hugely impressive performance, right? I mean, a 23-year-old kid getting his real first taste of a major Sunday. I know he played in the U.S. Open last year, but finished in the tied for 35th range. So this was his first time ever really being in contention. And he couldn't have passed the test any harder than he did. The chip in on 14 to finally be the one to emerge. It seemed like everyone was stuck on 10 under. No one could reach 11 under. And then knowing he had the lead, or I think he was tied for the time, to pull off that shot on 16, which is he's gonna do well to hit a better shot than that for the rest of his career. That's how good that one was. And then to make the eagle too. He just took the tournament by the throat, and he didn't look back. And I was also hugely impressed by 2 stress-free pars on 17 and 18, and I think golf has a new superstar in Collin Morikawa.
Daniel, let's talk a little bit about the Bash brothers, that being Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka. DJ obviously has had a stellar career. He was exempt for life on the PGA Tour before he was 35, does have a major, but has looking to get that second major and even maybe more, but has had a couple runner-ups and a couple bridesmaids here. And do you think maybe not getting that second trophy so far, is that going to continue to wear on him, or is that going to propel him? And then the second part, Brooks Koepka, look, he ran his mouth a little bit and had to eat some humble pie on Sunday, but I'm sure that's not going to change his perspective going forward.
Yeah, I think with DJ, it's kind of a funny one, right? So the media narrative, and I'm guilty of this, being in golf media, is that, he hasn't won his second one, and that's wearing on. I don't think he really gives a crap, to be honest with you. I mean, if you've ever seen him speak, it's like, it's all good, there's no stress ever. He's not a particularly emotional individual. I think it bothers everyone else a lot more than it bothers him. Of course, he wants to win that second major. Everyone wants to win any golf tournament they tee it up in. But of all the people on the PGA Tour to be affected by not winning something, I think DJ is in the bottom handful. He's just not the kind of guy to let anything really faze him. So I think it's kind of in one ear and out the other. And with Koepka, it kind of crossed the line, didn't it? It felt that way. Even Tiger Woods in his prime, I don't think would say something so directly personal. It's one thing to say, I'm really confident, I've been here before. It's another to kind of cross the line into criticizing and I would say disrespecting the number 4 player in the world who has 21 tour wins. And I think Rory McIlroy's response, I asked him on Sunday, what do you think about the way that Brooks comports himself and what he says around major championships? And you could tell he was ready for the question. And he said, look, I try to respect everyone out here. If you've won a major, doesn't mean you've only won one major. It means you've won a major. And it's hard to knock someone with 21 tour wins, which is 3 times what Brooks has. And from talking to a few other players and coaches in the sport, I think he was kind of speaking for everyone. It felt like Brooks crossed the line a little bit, which is, I guess, okay if you're going to win the tournament the next day, but you can't say that stuff and then shoot 4 over the next day. You just can't.
He is Daniel Rappaport, a staff writer at Golf Digest, and you can follow him on Twitter at Daniel_Rappaport. Daniel, let's get to this week's event, the Wyndham Championship. It is a tweener here between the PGA Championship and the FedEx Cup playoffs, the last chance for these players to advance into the top 125 in FedEx Cup points. Tell us about Sedgefield Country Club a little bit. What skill sets do you see being needed this week to have success in Greensboro, North Carolina?
Yeah, I haven't been there, but it's a classic layout that guys typically tend to go pretty low at, right? So JT Poston last year, he won the tournament without making a bogey for 72 holes, which I think is only the second time on record that's ever happened on the PGA Tour. So going to need someone who's comfortable taking it low. Sunday at Harding Park was kind of a war of attrition. This is going to be definitely some more birdies. I think it's par 70, so you'll probably see a couple scores in the low 60s. So definitely someone with a hot putter who's pouring in the birdies. Someone who I really like, who's kind of really flown under the radar and kind of dropped from where he was a couple years ago this week, is Justin Rose. I think he's 18 or 20 to 1 on most books. He finished 9th last week at the PGA, despite not hitting it his best. He really hasn't been hitting the ball well for the better part of a year now. But I like what I saw last week, and he is putting really, really well. So if he can have a good ball striking week where he gets close to where he was in 2018, when, remember, this guy was number 1 in the world, then I think he could win his first tournament since last year's Farmers Insurance Open. And then someone else who I got my eye on is Jordan Spieth. I know that's kind of a wild call these days. He was really up and down at the PGA, which is how he's been the last couple of years. I think he shot 77 or 78 on Saturday and then 67 on Sunday. So the birdies are in there, and he's got a couple of solid finishes. He was 10th, I think, at Colonial and 13th at the Memorial. So I do think it's coming. I really do. And I think a setup that's not so punishing off the tee where, last week when you missed the fairways, you had to punch out. This week, you're still going to have a chance to go for it. I think Spieth can ride a hot putter to a really solid finish this week, and I think it'd be a great confidence boost and great for golf if we can see him win for the first time in over 3 years now.
Daniel, this question, I guess, more in a macro sense in terms of the field. Obviously, they can still play to get into the FedEx Cup top 125 points in order to advance into the playoffs, but Usually you get a little bit of an extra wrinkle, and you don't have it this year because of the schedule changing, is that these guys aren't going to lose their cards if they don't finish in the top 125, and there's no promotion from the Korn Ferry Tour because there are no finals this year. Do you think that's going to change a little bit of the way in terms of the pressure for these guys in terms of how they play this event?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for the guys on the fringe, it's definitely not quite as much pressure as it usually is, right? Like the prospect of staring down another year on the Korn Ferry Tour, not being there, is very different. But make no mistake, I mean, these guys, I think I'm looking it up right now. I think last place in the FedEx Cup gets $101,000. If you make the Northern Trust, you make the playoffs, you get $100,000 bonus. So that's a lot of money. And yes, they won't be losing their cards, but making the playoffs definitely will give you higher priority to getting into tournaments next year. So yes, you're right. Not as dramatic as it would be otherwise, but still, it's an important week, and guys do want to get in the playoffs because it's very lucrative to do so. You know, you get in playoffs, you have a couple of solid weeks, all of a sudden, you know, you finish 20th in the FedEx Cup standings, and there's an extra $500,000. So don't underestimate how much these guys are motivated by money. It might not sound like they would be given how much they all make, but they absolutely are. So I think the prospect of getting into the FedEx Cup playoffs and having a shot at that $15 million payout is definitely going to motivate a bunch of guys. It will still be a pressure-packed week, although not as much as usual.
And Daniel, kind of piggybacking off of that question and your answer, usually in the Wyndham, you do get a fair amount, more so than you would expect, of European players playing this event. And you've got several Europeans just outside that 125, Shane Lowry, Matt Wallace, Rafa Cabrera-Bello, Sergio Garcia, Danny Willett, Brandon Grace, albeit he's a South African, but plays a lot on the European Tour. What about the approach for these guys this week? And do you like any of those guys to potentially contend, knowing that, hey, if I don't make the 125, I'm probably not going to be playing until the U.S. Open because they can't exactly travel and just go pick up shop on the European Tour?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these guys put a lot of pressure on themselves kind of accidentally this year, right? So they spent a lot of time in the beginning of the year in Europe playing those events in the Middle East, because they were planning on having all this time to play a full summer in the United States and make the playoffs. But obviously when COVID happened, it took a lot of starts away from them. So, you know, a lot of these guys have only played 6-7 events in the PGA Tour this season, and now they're like, oh God, I gotta get going. Someone I like is Shane Lowry. You know, he made the cut last week. He was semi-contending for a little while before he started hitting it pretty poorly. Actually snapped a 5-iron over his knee, which was pretty impressive. But he's another guy who can really get hot with a short game. I think he can take a load this week. Sergio Garcia, also, I know he missed a cut last week, but he's been playing solid, if unspectacular golf, kind of a couple finishes in the mid-30s. So keep an eye on those two guys this week. But yeah, a lot of these guys did not expect to have to play the Wyndham Championship to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. Did not expect to have to, post a solid finish to be able to play golf the next couple of weeks. So it's another interesting wrinkle for sure.
And Daniel, we don't always see these big names at the Wyndham Championship. You mentioned Spieth and Justin Rose. You've got Koepka and Tommy Fleetwood, Shane Lowry and Sergio you talk about. These are not typical faces we see year in and year out at the Wyndham Championship. As far as a winner this week, do you think maybe we'll get one of more of the traditional names? You know, Webb Simpson, Brandt Snedeker, Ryan Moore, Billy Horschel, some of those medium-priced guys that usually take this tournament? Or do you think it will be one of the big guns that emerges victorious this week?
Yeah, I think just if we're playing the law of averages, probably one of the big guns, right? I mean, there's a reason they're the big guns. You know, that's another kind of unintended offshoot of this whole pandemic is a lot of these tournaments, they usually don't get very good fields. And no disrespect to the Wyndham, but like you mentioned, a lot of guys usually take the last week of the regular season off to freshen themselves up for the FedEx Cup playoffs. You got a lot of the best players in the world playing a lot of events that they wouldn't otherwise play. So I think it's really exciting for the Wyndham to get to see all of these guys competing. And yeah, you know, I think, like you said, I'm looking at the field now. Webb Simpson, Patrick Reed is there, Paul Casey is there right after finishing second. Abraham Ancer, who's a really good rising star from Mexico. Brendan Todd, who played well the last couple of weeks. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week, and I do think you're more likely to see someone like Webb or someone like Brooks or someone like Justin Rose win than a JT Poston from last year.
Daniel, got about a minute left here, but did want to get your opinion on the U.S. Open or any early takes that you might have on that. Look, I know we just got done with the major and we want to celebrate Colin Morikawa, but with this season being so condensed, we're already looking forward to the next one, which is a little less than a month away. And wanted to see maybe where you were leaning or if you had any guys that stood out to you early for Winged Foot next month at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting to see how Morikawa plays. He's a guy who finds a ton of fairways and a ton of greens, extremely accurate. And typically those guys tend to fare well in the U.S. Open. Obviously, he's giving up a little bit off the tee. He's not quite as long, probably 25, 30 yards shorter than someone like Bryson or Tony Finau. But if they get the course really firm, he'll be able to move it out there definitely far enough to compete. So I think all eyes are going to be on him, right? I mean, he's number 5 in the world right now. He could be even higher after the FedEx Cup playoffs. There's a good chance he shows up to Winged Foot as, the number 2 or number 3 player in the world. This is a guy who played in college last year. He's still one of my favorite stats. He's still the defending Pac-12 individual champion because obviously they didn't have a Pac-12 tournament this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he backs it up. And then Brooks again, man. Any big, hard golf course with a bunch of rough, Brooks is going to be in there with a chance. And obviously, like we mentioned, he's going to have a little bit of he's going to want to make up for that Sunday performance. And he definitely is going to want to show the haters that he's not going to be down for long. So I think Brooks and Morikawa are two guys that kind of jump off the page. I'm excited for that one. It's a home game. I don't have to travel. I can sleep in my own bed. It's going to be a fun week.
Thank you very much for joining us, Daniel. Great stuff. Again, he is a staff writer at Golf Digest, and you can follow him on Twitter at Daniel_Rappaport. Daniel, enjoy the Wyndham Championship.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Very good stuff there. Brooks and Colin Morikawa at the U.S. Open. Brooks, I would expect a bounce back. He's currently at 12-1, the favorite at the Westgate. Colin Morikawa all the way down to 20-1 to win the U.S. Open at the Westgate Superbook. We'll be back. We'll talk Tiger Tracker next up here on Long Shots on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. From the Indeed.com studio, find the high-impact hire your business needs at Indeed.com/high-impact. That's Indeed.com/high-impact for more information. Brady Kannon and Wes Reynolds with you on Long Shots. It is our Tiger Tracker segment. Tiger Woods finished tied for 37th at the PGA Championship. And Wes, I think it's about what we expected. He had wonderful bookend rounds of 68, 67. But in between on Friday, Saturday, it was the putter that did not cooperate.
No, it really didn't. And he finally got some to drop on Sunday with a 3-under round to finish 1 under par for the championship. But I think it kind of bared out, I think, to what we thought going in, as we talked about on last week's show. And we talked about it with our friend Jeff Sherman over at the Westgate Superbook USA here in Las Vegas, who was fading him in a few matchups. He just didn't have the reps. And I think now, and what I brought up last week in terms of why I may take a fancy to him for the U.S. Open at Winged Foot next month is he's going to have some reps. He's currently 47th in the FedEx Cup standings, top 125 play the first week at the Northern Trust. Then they cut it to 70 for the BMW and then 30 for the Tour Championship at Eastlake in Atlanta. And look, he's got a chance to make a move. He's at least going to be guaranteed to play the first 2 events. Now, he's got some work to do if he wants to get in that top 30 and play at Atlanta, where he's won a couple times. So I think once he just gets some rounds under his belt and some competitive golf, and keep in mind, these are going to be very good fields by and large, even 125, like I was saying, at the Northern Trust, and then down to 70. So he's playing against all the top guys pretty much in the world. So if we see some good performances out of there, this might be, and I don't have the exact price right now, but this might be the time if you're looking to maybe buy him for the U.S. Open. This would be the time, because if he goes off and he contends in one of these playoff events, all of a sudden you're going to be looking at prices in the low to mid-teens.
Right now at the Westgate, he is currently 30-1 to win the U.S. Open, which is a pretty nice number. He spoiled the party for some bettors at the PGA Championship, too. First of all, to make the cut, he did make it by just one shot. And then also on some of his head-to-head matchups, you mentioned Jeff Sherman fading him in a number of matchups. I think Jeff fared okay there, but Tiger did surprise, beating Patrick Cantlay in a head-to-head, also Matthew Fitzpatrick and Ricky Fowler.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Tiger, and what you notice with some players when they're kind of out of it, maybe they just kind of go through the motions and play really quickly if they're teeing off early and not in contention to win. I give credit to Tiger Woods, and that's why I call him the greatest grinder in the history of the game of golf, because he doesn't give up.
No.
He didn't quit. He said, you know what, I'm going to go out there and play and give an honest effort, and he did. And he shot 3 under par, and actually the round probably could have been a little better. He missed a couple makeable putts where he could have maybe shot 5 or 6 under on Sunday. So, look, I think he's okay. It's just getting the repetitions.
How about the 3-ball bet on the opening round on Thursday, playing in the same pairing with Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas, and Tiger wins that 3-ball on Thursday?
Yeah, that was amazing. Rory was kind of up and down all week, really. There were times he showed the flashes of Rory, and then it looked. I think it might have been Thursday or Friday where he had like 3 or 4 birdies in a row. It's like, oh my God, here he comes.
Yep, it was Friday, I believe. And then the 12th hole, he triple bogeyed after 4 birdies.
Hit a bad chip and just got in trouble, and there went his chances. And same with Justin Thomas. He never really contended during the week. I think he went out with Jordan Spieth. He was one of the first groups off on Saturday and shot a decent round, and Jordan Spieth proceeded to tumble down the leaderboard. But Tiger winning that pairing with those two guys who have both been number one in the world at some point this year. Rory, of course, and Justin Thomas was number one. Now, with Justin's poor finish at the PGA, Jon Rahm gets the number one ranking back. But we know that Colin Morikawa, once he gets the maximum amount of events, or the minimum events rather, for the divisor and how they tabulate that ranking, Morikawa eventually could be the number one player in the world. So, number one rankings, man, these change, it seems like, on a week-to-week basis out here.
You mentioned Jordan Spieth. Similar to Tiger, he shot 2 very nice rounds in the 60s and then 2 poor rounds that left him deep on the leaderboard in the championship. Tiger is not in the field for the Wyndham this week. His playoff status, as you mentioned, is solid at 47th in the FedEx Cup points. But I think we're definitely going to see him. From what he said at the PGA, looks like he'll tee it up next week at TPC Boston for the Northern Trust.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a win here. He does have a runner-up back in 2013. Adam Scott won that year. Actually, it was at Liberty National when it was at the Barclays. So, look, I think he's going to show a little something in the FedEx Cup, and you're going to get a price cut in his U.S. Open odds.
We're going to get to see him a few times over the next few weeks before the U.S. Open. And speaking of the Open, we'll talk major implications next right here on Long Shots on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We saw Winged Foot in 2006 host a U.S. Open. That was the last one, Wes, and it was Jeff Ogilvy winning after Phil Mickelson hit his tee ball into a hospitality tent on the final 72nd hole of the championship. This is the 6th time Winged Foot will be hosting a men's U.S. Open. Also hosted a PGA Championship in 1997 when Davis Love III won. But traditionally, all these championships that we've seen at Winged Foot, the finishing scores are around par or worse, above par. And I want to know, what are they going to do to this course to tame these guys that are uber talented in today's game?
Yeah, in 2006, now that's a long time ago, there's a lot of changes that can be made. The winning score was Jeff Ogilvy, and it was really a battle of attrition, as we were kind of talking about over the break here. Won at 5 over par, made a couple clutch pars down the stretch. Jim Furyk, Colin Montgomery, Phil Mickelson all had chances to win and didn't get it done. So and the course I think played back then as a par 70. I believe it was maybe a little
might have
bit
been a
less.
71. I read something earlier today. They're going to play a hole as a par 5 this year that I believe in '06 played as a par 4.
Yeah, you may be right, because I remember the cut that year was, I believe, 9 over par.
Wow.
Because they did 10 shots and ties. I think the second round leader, if I recall, was 1 under par. And in fact, it was Steve Stricker. And the course was about a little under 7,300 yards. And we know, look, the USGA, nobody can try to make it, can gimmick up a course and make it harder than the USGA can. So they've had now a couple extra months to be able to do that. So I think that they're going to do it. I don't know if 5 over par is going to be the winning score, but I wouldn't say very many more than a few under par. I don't think this is going to be like some of the U.S. Opens that we've seen in recent years, like at Erin Hills a few years ago when Brooks Koepka won at 16 under. Gary Woodland won at Pebble Beach last year at 13 under. It's probably going to resemble another U.S. Open more recently that's kind of played in that Long Island area, and that would be Shinnecock Hills. Weather had something to do with that too, but Brooks Koepka won that at 1 over par at the U.S. Open at Shinnecock, and Tommy Fleetwood finished second, had a 63 on Sunday to finish second place, and that's a guy I think we were both talking about. I know we don't have anybody in pocket, but Tommy Fleetwood would be a guy I would target. I know he faded a little bit on the weekend. He was in that final pairing on Saturday with Haotong Li, and then got it back to even par, rallied late on Saturday, and then I think shot 3 over on Sunday to finish down the board. But all he needs is more reps. And he came over here, once he came over from England during the pandemic, his first round of golf he played over here was a practice round at Shinnecock Hills and shot a 64. Now, not exactly a USGA setup at this point, but that shows, I think he likes this area of the country. He would be a guy I would be definitely looking at. I know he's in that 30 to mid-30-ish range, so he would be a guy I would look at. And I do think that this is going to play more like a typical U.S. Open. This is not going to be something where somebody's going to shoot double digits under par.
Yeah, I agree with you. I took a look at the course today, and A.W. Tillinghast Design, who is also responsible for Baltusrol, and Beth Page Black, where we saw the PGA Championship last year. Narrow tree-lined fairways, some dog legs, some very difficult greenside bunkers, very fast greens, and they have some false fronts and undulations. It's going to be about 7,500 yards in a par 70 this year. What would your guess, Wes, and we're talking about the level of difficulty of the course and its history of winners being over par, what are they going to set the winning score prop at? Is it going to be even, -4, -8? Where would you go for the winning score proposition bet for the U.S. Open?
I could maybe see around 276. 4 under. That kind of seems right to me. The last major was obviously way back in '97, and the PGA is a different setup. Davis Love was 11 under par, 269 that year. So I don't think it's going to be like an over par type of thing, but probably somewhere 4 or 5 under, I think.
It's kind of like with Harding Park, right? We see the winner, Colin Morikawa, get to 13 under. You could argue that maybe a winning score was more around 11. The winning score proposition bet was at 10.5. But if the USGA was setting up Harding Park, you might see the winning score at 3 under.
Yeah, exactly.
So same thing with Davis Love in '97, gets to 11. This time around, the winning score might be 3 or 4 under. I think that's maybe where your winning score prop is going to end up, maybe between 4 and 6.
Pars are always good scores at the U.S. Open because you're not only playing the competitors, you're playing the course, and the USGA absolutely takes that to heart. They do not want people shooting double digits under par on their courses, and sometimes that's always kind of one of the big storylines going in. It's not just the betting and the players and whatnot. It's how the course is going to play, probably more than any other major, because they never want to let the course get away from them, and they have a couple times. Obviously, Erin Hills, the wind never really blew, so guys were shooting double digits under par fairly easily.
Anyone you have in pocket already? I know you tipped your hand a little bit there about Tommy Fleetwood. He is of great interest to me as well. Anybody that you do have a bet on already, or that you're thinking of other than Tommy Fleetwood?
Nobody as of yet, but I'm going to be monitoring the board. And look, that's what we do with the PGA. Sometimes you get a good number, like I did with Bryson DeChambeau. Even though he didn't get the win, he got in the top 5. And then I had a bad number on Paul Casey. and he ends up finishing tied for second with a couple breaks, might have been able to win the thing. So these numbers are going to be fluid and they're going to change, and you just want to time the market correctly.
I think you're really going to have to look at a guy that hits the ball straight.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that 2006 U.S. Open, it's the usual suspects. Steve Stricker, you mentioned. That guy could be at the top of the leaderboard at the midway point again this year in his early 50s. Jim Furyk.
They were both, they were all on the leaderboard. All guys that were accurate hitters, strong greens and regulation numbers. I think those are, if you're looking for statistical angles, those are what you're going to look at.
Tommy Fleetwood fits that bill. You look at the odds at the Westgate. Brooks Koepka is the favorite at 12-1. I don't know if I'd want to be on Brooks right now because, accuracy off the tee is a little bit of an issue for him. Rory McIlroy and Dustin Johnson are at 16. I'd probably look to them before I looked at Brooks. Tiger Woods, we mentioned, at 30-1. Not a bad number on Woods.
Yeah, not at all, and it may get cut if he shows kind of it in these FedEx Cup playoffs. Look, guys that are knocking on the doors, the John Rahms, the Xander Schauffele's, kind of the better players not to win a major. DeChambeau, I think you would include in that as well. But they're going to see some action and can't really necessarily argue against.
If you like Webb Simpson, you might want to get on him now. He's at 30-1 to win the U.S. Open. He is the favorite for the Wyndham Championship this week, and if he fares well, that number to win the U.S. Open may drop. Gary Woodland is your defending champion. He is at 50-1 at the Westgate. Justin Rose at 30-1. Justin Thomas, another one of the group, at 16-1 at the Westgate to win the United States Open. When we come back, we'll go over our plays. Matt Humans, Wes Reynolds, and myself, our plays for the Wyndham Championship right here on Long Shots. A course that rates the highest in each factor is Bali High Golf Club, a tropical golf course paradise located on the Las Vegas Strip and in the shadows of some of the most famous hotels in the world. At Bali High, designed by award-winning architects Brian Schmidt and Lee Curley, you will find hundreds of mature palm trees, lagoon-like water features, beautiful bunkering, and a stunning clubhouse home to Sealy Restaurant and an indoor-outdoor patio experience and event space. The course offers Bluetooth technology, caddies upon request, Jell-O shots, model-like beverage cart staff, VIP service from curb to course and back again, high-quality food and beverage, and a par 3 challenge where you can double your money with one swing. The stunning Bali High Golf Club, located in the heart of the Las Vegas Strip, is a golf jackpot, and there are many reasons why. Play today. To learn more about the Bali High experience or reserve your tee time, call 888-427-6678 or visit BaliHighGolfClub.com. That's BALIHAI golfclub.com. It is time for the match play segment here on Long Shots. Brady Kannon and Wes Reynolds with you, where we go over our plays for the week. It is the Wyndham Championship, sandwiched in between the PGA and the FedEx Cup playoffs. The final test for players to get into the top 125 in FedEx Cup points and advance into those FedEx Cup playoffs. We will start with Matt Humans' plays. We all narrowly missed out last week on Colin Morikawa. He was about the one guy that was not on our card.
We had him surrounded. I was talking about that with Gil Alexander on the numbers game. It's like Brady, Matt, and I were like a SWAT team, and we've got the perp surrounded, and the perp gets out the back door and gets away, and that perp was young Mr. Morikawa.
He sure did, and an incredible performance indeed. But this week, Matt is on Justin Rose, comes off of a nice performance in San Francisco. He's at 25-1. Doesn't play a whole lot here at the Wyndham, but certainly a class player. Kevin Kistner makes a lot of sense here with his history at the Pete Dye course, the TPC Sawgrass, and also RBC Heritage, who match up well with Sedgefield Country Club. Snedeker, a winner here before. I was on him a couple years ago when he shot 59 to open that tournament. JT Poston, your defending champ, at 77-1. And then Doc Redman, not far away from Clemson University, at 80-1.
All of those plays make sense. I'll just go one by one quickly. Rose, was fifth back here in 2009. The fact that he's playing this week shows that, he's safely in the FedEx Cup. I mean, he's not going to gain a ton of points, but I think he wants those reps, so he certainly makes sense. Kisner, as you mentioned, the RBC correlation. He was very good putting last week out at the PGA, so maybe he keeps it going. Snedeker, I wanted a little bit more, but Snedeker is the ultimate horse for course here. Donald Ross design. He's won at East Lake in Atlanta. JT Poston, the defending champion here, who won, I believe, at about 100 to 1. And is in the high 70s as Matt played. Poston also finished, I believe, 8th or tied for 8th at the RBC Heritage, and there is a real big course correlation.
Right.
Even though that's a Pete Dye design, and this is a Donald Ross design at Sedgefield, there is a huge correlation between success at the RBC and success here, so Matt's playing off that. Doc Redman kind of fits, the ball striking stats are pretty good, and also kind of fits a little bit of a Donald Ross link in terms of how he succeeded last year in the 2019 Rocket Mortgage Classic. I believe he was
right. I think third.
Yeah, he was second or third, right behind Nate Lashley, who won that pretty comfortably. But
his stats are good, very accurate off the tee. Strokes gained approach is solid. The one thing that scares me a little bit is his ability to scramble. And I'll ask you what you looked at this week. I looked at driving accuracy, strokes gained on approach, greens in regulation, a combination of that, scrambling, which is very big here with the Ross greens, the smaller greens that have those runoff areas and collection areas where you have to be really good at chipping the ball around the green. And then par 4 scoring. We've got another par 70 here.
Yeah, I looked at the same. Strokes gained approach. If you look, I believe 6 of the last 7 winners here at the Wyndham Championship have rated 4th or better on strokes gained approach for the weeks that they won. So I looked at that. Also looked on the strokes gained tee to green. 3 of the last 4 winners have rated 1st or 2nd respectively in tee to green. So that really matters here. And then, of course, you got to get a little bit hot with the putter on the Bermuda here. So I looked at that, driving accuracy and GIR, as you said, and also par 4 performance from 400 to 450 yards. I believe 8 of the 10 par 4s or 8 of the 12, rather, measure at that length. So kind of a quick little rundown of mine. Harris English, 31 to 1. I know you and I have both used him a couple times over the summer.
I looked at him hard this week, and I may still add him. I'd love to see that number get to 35.
Right.
One guy that you have that I toyed with, and I'd like his number to get to 100, that's Henrik Norlander. This guy's been playing very well. Very accurate driver of the golf ball. 10th on tour in driving accuracy, 46 in strokes gained approach, and 43rd in par 4 scoring.
Yeah, Norlander is a former teammate of Patrick Reed at Georgia State University, and had to go back on the Korn Ferry Tour to get his card last year, and did so. 10th in DA, as you said, 19th in GIR, so even higher when that's overall on the tour. That's not necessarily in this week's field. The number's much higher, but first time PGA Tour wins, kind of a semi-regular occurrence really here at the Wyndham. 7 of the last 13 years, JT Poston, Siwoo Kim, Patrick Reed, Webb Simpson, Arjun Atwal, Ryan Moore, Brant Snedeker, all won their first events here. So you could definitely see that. Norlander in the 90 to 1 range. He's well within the top 125. He's got 3 top 10s on tour, so he doesn't have to worry. He's going to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. Now he can just go focus on winning. And then just quickly back to English. I wish the number was a little better, but he's in such good form, and it'll kind of get ignored because he hasn't been right there for a win. But 7 of the last 8 events, top 20 or better, including a T19
had a great Sunday at Harding Park.
He did. He rates in the top 10 in strokes gained putting for this week's field, tee to green, also GIR, 66 on Sunday, as you mentioned. That was the 4th best round in the field, and it tied him with Rahm, DeChambeau, Reed, Finau, Day, Casey. Pretty good company there to be able to shoot that number. So Harris English, a guy that I definitely like this week. I wish the number was better, but I went ahead and dove in over 30.
I took a look at Russell Henley. You have him there at 51 to 1. His stats certainly make sense. Maverick McNeely's a guy I like.
I do want to touch a little bit on Maverick McNeely because he doesn't have course history here, and he's only 24 years old, but I'm going with the motivational angle here. I'm not going course form or the usual angles. Motivation here for McNeely. He didn't make the PGA. He had a chance to maybe get that spot and win the Barracuda. Didn't really make any birdies on Sunday and finish 7th, so he had to sit at home. By the way, he's a Bay Area kid, as you know. And he's also the son of one Scott McNeely, who is the co-founder of Sun Microsystems. So he's a rich kid of a billionaire. So sometimes you question his passion a little bit because it's like, he could go into business. He's not really hurting for money. He just happens to be good at the game. But what might ignite his passion this week is he had to sit at home while the PGA was kind of in his backyard. I think Portola Valley is the town where he's from, which isn't far from San Francisco, about 40 minutes. And had to watch a Cal Golden Bear, Collin Morikawa, win the PGA,
rile him up.
Who was kind of a guy that he played against. McNeely, of course, is a Stanford grad. Morikawa, a Cal Golden Bear, around the same age. He's only a few months younger than McNeely. Another thing with Maverick McNeely, his paramour, if you will, his girlfriend is named Danielle Kang. And if you follow the entire golf world, Danielle Kang on the LPGA Tour has now won in back-to-back weeks. She is now the number 2 ranked women's golfer in the world behind Jin Young Ko. So you got your mate coming home.
He's behind in the house there.
Yeah, you got your mate coming home bringing 2 trophies when she gets back from the road here.
That's interesting.
You got to show something.
The correlation there. Collin Morikawa goes to Cal. His girlfriend is a great golfer, nearly turned professional, I believe, played at Pepperdine. And then you have Maverick McNeely, the Stanford Cardinal, whose girlfriend is one of the best in the world. So some similarities between those two. We'll get to my plays now here for a minute. Wes, I had to go chalk. I mean, Webb Simpson is just the absolute stud at this golf course. Like you had mentioned, he named his daughter Wyndham after he got his first win here at this tournament. Now, I have not played him there just yet. It shows on the graphic at a little better than 10-1. That's at Circa. I'm really waiting for an 11. That's kind of my threshold. I want to get Webb at 11, but his stats, his history, I bet him for a top 5 finish already. He's finished top 5, I believe, the last 3 years in a row. So I went with the Webber, and he's got great history at the corollary courses. RBC Heritage, of course, he won it this year. He's done well at the Tour Championship at the past. And if you look at course correlation to RBC Heritage, you look to TPC Sawgrass, where Webb has also won. So he checks a number of boxes this week. I know the number's low, but I got him at 14-1 to win in Phoenix. I might try him again here. Billy Horschel, who's been playing some pretty solid golf. Harding Park may have been a little bit out of his league, but Billy Horschel has won at Eastlake, another Donald Ross design. He did well at Pinehurst in 2014, another Donald Ross design. 33-1, would have loved 35, but I think Billy can perform well here. And Horschel is 50th in the FedEx Cup standings, so he is certainly grinding to get into that top 30. Ryan Moore, who is at 91 in the FedEx Cup point standings. Ryan Moore had a good round at Minnesota for the 3-end Open, almost finished top 10 there. He has a win here as well.
He withdrew from the PGA as well. Had a spot in the PGA, but decided not to give it a go. So I wonder if that's a good sign that maybe he's just concentrating and needed a week off, and he's concentrating on this event where he's had previous success.
Yeah, hopefully his health is good. And not only has he won here at Wyndham before, he has 2 top 5s at Eastlake. We've talked about Eastlake, the home of the Tour Championship.
And that's always a good field because there's only 30 players that make that Tour Championship, so that's not against chumps.
Exactly. And so again, a correlation course there where Ryan Moore has had success. And then finally, my bomb is Bryce Garnett. And Garnett has some good numbers this week. He's very accurate off the tee, a great ball striker. He's 15th on tour in greens in regulation, also a good putter, and does well on the par 4s. The only thing where he has a little bit of a weakness is the scrambling, and that's going to be big this week, but that's why he's 150-1. And that's a pretty good number. So we'll see if we can have some success this week. We've been picking a lot of winners, but we weren't able to latch on to Mr. Morikawa this week.
No, we weren't. And but a well-deserved champion is Collin Morikawa. He absolutely earned that. No shame in being defeated, but unfortunately, we don't cash the outrights.
No, he is a wonderful champion. I'm thrilled for the kid, and more success to Mr. Morikawa. Next week, we kick off the FedEx Cup playoffs at TPC Boston for the Northern Trust, and Rufus Peabody will be by to join us on the program. Enjoy the golf this week, everybody. It's the Wyndham Championship, and this is Long Shots. Thank you for watching right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.